More than halfway through the year 2022, there have been many events that would have been enough to last several years. But that's not all. The soothsayers are sure that in the coming months we shouldn't relax because we can expect a new pandemic, terrible climate changes, an invasion of the insect army, terrible cataclysms, and much more. This is Infinity, and in this episode I'll tell you about 10 predictions for 2022 that will change everything. Before we get to the main predictions, I suggest we find out what Elon Musk thinks about the near future of Earth. Who better than him to worry about the future when he has such grand plans for the coming years? Elon's eager to realize his plans as soon as possible because he thinks we might be too late.
That's the next step, and then we can go from there to being a multi-stellar species.
According to him, we live in a unique time when we have the opportunity for space travel. Elon Musk believes that we should become a multi-planetary civilization while the opportunity still exists. The entrepreneur has no doubt that soon this opportunity may not exist, and so we need to act now by preparing to relocate to other planets, first and foremost Mars. This is the only way we can survive, becoming a space civilization and multi-planetary species. Elon Musk is convinced that if we stay on Earth, we'll soon become extinct. His words are confirmed by some experts who believe that Earth may not become in the next 10 years. Quite possible that the countdown will begin for us as early as this year, as indicated by the eerie and frightening predictions of theorists and experts. Let's get to them. Pandemic. We're just getting used to living in peace with the coronavirus pandemic, as we should expect a new pandemic to break out. COVID-19 seems to be on the decline, there are fewer infections, and it's not being talked about as often as it was a year or two ago. But we shouldn't relax. Some experts believe that Earth has given people a break, but soon a new blow, much stronger, is expected. According to them, a mutation of the virus and a wave of disease, which the current pandemic is not comparable to, is likely. But it may not be a mutation but something else. For example, a new virus created intentionally by humans. It could also be a virus that breaks free as a result of failed experiments by scientists or as a result of melting glaciers. In addition, a new trend by the end of the year could be a pandemic of monkeypox. Cases of the disease have been already identified in some parts of the world, and in the same way it started with the coronavirus in the late 2019 and beginning of 2020. Some billionaires, including Bill Gates, are also talking about a new pandemic. The founder of Microsoft believes that if there is to be a pandemic, it will be in the coming decades, not years or months. But who knows? It may happen faster than Gates thinks. Climate. Climate change is always on any list of predictions for any given year, and 2022 is no exception. But this isn't surprising, because the climate's very frail and a delicate thing, and our actions and even our mere presence on Earth strongly affect it. The year 2021 was marked by several climate records at once. The maximum concentration of greenhouse gases, record ocean acidity, record high sea level, and maximum ocean temperature. Frankly, not the best records for mankind. But one of those records has already been broken this year. The concentration of greenhouse gases has gotten even higher. In the spring, it was 420 particles per million, and it continues to grow. This is the highest value in the history of mankind. The last time the global level of carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases consistently exceeded 400 particles per million was about 4 million years ago, when the global temperature was about 5.5 degrees Fahrenheit higher than today. At this rate, other climate records could be broken in the second half of 2022, and our planet could become an even more dangerous place. As for climate records, it's likely that at least one will definitely be updated by the end of this year. I'm talking about the sea level. Over the past few years, the average global sea level has risen by an average of 0.1 inches a year, and this is bad news for coastal communities. By the end of this year, some of those locations may not be there at all because of the massive melting of glaciers around the world. They're melting particularly vigorously in Greenland and Antarctica. For example, in March of this year, the Conger Glacier collapsed into the ocean, becoming the first large-scale collapse of ice shelves in East Antarctica in human history. Its area was comparable to that of Rome, which means that the destruction of this glacier significantly affected ocean levels. Global warming is affecting the melting of glaciers, which continue to break away and fall into the ocean. This trend will not stop in the second half of 2022, but will only intensify. By the end of the year, we should expect more melted glaciers and rising ocean levels. In turn, this will lead not only to flooding of areas, but also to a new ice age. Due to the melting of glaciers, water in the ocean becomes fresher, begins to draw carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, reducing the greenhouse effect and contributing to a colder climate. The year 2022 could be a sad year not only for Antarctica and Greenland, but also for India. One of the predictions says that in 2022, India will face an invasion of locusts. Might seem like it should be no big deal, but it's not. Some infestations total millions, billions, and sometimes even trillions of insect pests. Such a colossal army could easily wipe out half the country. Of course, I'm not talking about infrastructure or locals, but they can wipe out crops at a moment's notice. This already happened in Madagascar in 2013 when locust hordes wiped out more than 50% of the country's crops and caused a huge damage to the economy. This also happened in India a couple of years ago. Back then, pests ruined a huge amount of crops. But all hell will break loose in 2022. As for Asia, that part of the world will face other challenges this year. Some experts predict global cataclysm and natural disasters in Asia in 2022. Among them, Asia will soon face devastating tsunamis and earthquakes. Some of these will cause enormous and possibly irreparable damage to the countries. Australia is also under threat and will not be spared. The preconditions are already there. Most recently, Afghanistan was hit by a devastating earthquake of magnitude 6. Over 1,000 people became victims of the elements. This may be just the beginning. Afghanistan is located in South Asia, and it's possible that in the next few months, the same or even more destructive earthquakes will spread further east and gradually destroy Pakistan, India, China, Korea, and so on. Space. The year 2022 promises more than just bad things. For example, according to the predictions of many experts, this year private space flights will begin to be actively implemented. Actually, it's not a prediction, but rather a plan. Prerequisites for this have been occurring over the past few years. For example, last year, billionaires Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson went into space. Bezos has already sent full-fledged civilian crews into space several times, including late last year. So far, there are a limited number of flights into space, but according to experts, the second half of 2022, such tourist flights into space will become commonplace. Some companies like Blue Origin will begin to organize trips to space for ordinary people on a regular basis. However, so far, flying into space is a pleasure only for the rich. Ticket costs from a few $100,000 to several $1 million. But this is only the beginning. The year 2022 can become a starting point in terms of development of the space tourism. It's possible that in 10 to 20 years, flights to space will be as simple and accessible as a flight to another country by plane. In addition to the space sphere, technology will develop in general. Predictors believe that in the second half of 2022, we should expect a breakthrough of several technologies at once, as well as the emergence of new technologies. According to them, in the coming months, we should expect a very powerful and widespread introduction of 5G networks, which will eventually become indispensable in the future. Also, predictors believe that soon the world will give up the typical passwords and all will be replaced by biometric methods of identification. Breakthroughs should be expected in biology, cryptocurrency mining, which will become more economical, as well as in medicine. According to experts, this year the world may begin to get rid of malaria. Cloning is another area that could start making progress in the next few months. It's been talked about for many years, ever since scientists succeeded in cloning Dolly, the sheep, back in 1996. After the great success, animal cloning has been restricted or banned altogether due to ethical norms and the complexities of the technology. The main problem with clones is that the technology is poorly controlled, but prognosticators believe this problem is about to be solved. This year, we should expect to see successful experiments in cloning existing animals. Moreover, in the coming months, we may see scientists bringing extinct species back to life. According to predictors, by the end of the year, scientists will be able to recreate the woolly mammoth, which will be one of the major scientific achievements of all time and will change the world forever. As for humans, it's still unclear when exactly we can expect clones. First, we need to solve moral and ethical issues, but it's possible that tests will begin as early as this year. Actually, they're probably already underway secretly. One of the big questions on many people's minds is whether the rest of this year will be financially successful. Many people are going through a crisis right now and are hoping for a resolution. The predictions are not comforting. It's believed that the wealth gap will only grow. The difference between rich and poor will become even more pronounced. And by the end of this year, this will be obvious to everyone. Also, predictors believe that money will split into two streams this year. The first will flow east and west, and the second will flow in the opposite direction. One of the major predictions for the rest of this year is that human civilization will change. According to soothsayers, what's already happened this year and what will still happen before its end will have an impact on the next 20 years of development of all human civilization. People will change internally. The way of life of all people will undergo drastic changes, and the old values will be completely devalued. Soothsayers believe that it's impossible to change the coming events, but it is possible to change attitudes to what will happen. One should be morally prepared not to chase after material goods, which can still be lost in a moment. Instead, soothsayers recommend self-improvement, spiritual growth, and spending as much time as possible with one's family. That's all, guys. Share in the comments your predictions for the rest of 2022. Thanks for watching, and see you later.